Our topic today is 5 of the biggest LinkedIn profile mistakes and how to fix them. And I appreciate this topic because I love how, Kevin, you always come at something, you always come at something from a different stance. So it's not going to be the typical things that everybody else always talks about. We're going to talk about something a little bit different today. So before we get stuck in, though, I would like you to introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do, and then we'll start talking.
Well, Jillian, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Again, I love being on your show. It's incredible. And I do like the fact that you let me talk about things I like to talk about because I am a little bit of a geek in that sense. The business, I run my business with my wife. That's why it's T&T, right? Brand strategist. We help individuals and organizations figure out what do they do? How do you refine it, right? And then how do you define that brand so you can share it? And a lot of it's got to focus on LinkedIn. So that's what we do. And we're always excited to do it. And part of this, I guess, journey in what we're doing in this digital age is LinkedIn's a big player. So if you're not doing LinkedIn right, you're kind of getting lost. You're becoming invisible. And LinkedIn makes it, I think, easy to make a profile, but not always easy to make a profile that works. Right? That works not only with the technology, the digital processing, but also what people expect when they get to a profile. So I think, knowing those things are the most important when you're putting this all together, because so many people tell you everything about building a profile, and we're going to try not to do those common things today. We're going to try to get into a little more of the stuff that you don't really know unless you know.
I like that. I like that. If you know what you know. So I love that. I love that. Okay. So 5 of the biggest LinkedIn profile mistakes and how to fix them, because we're not just being negative Nellies here. We're going to give everybody some valuable information. So number 1 is market value filters. So first of all, explain what that is, Kevin. What is that?
Well, think about LinkedIn as a database, right? Right now we're 1 billion profiles, and a profile for the most part is a resume, right? Our resume, our digital resume, shall we say. There's 1 billion of them out there. Within that resume, there's ways of sorting and finding our profiles, but it's all based on fitting into categories or filters. Market value filters are the ones that LinkedIn uses, that LinkedIn respects. And in that process, if you respect those filters, you get found. So very important. It starts with industry. Most people's industry is the default to the last company they worked for. So if you're in HR, but you worked for an automotive company, you'd be in automotive. Well, no, I'm in HR. Go change your industry. And again, as you're adding that industry, look for what is called a drop-down filter box. And what LinkedIn is doing, it's giving you a clue, because it doesn't give you a lot of clues. It never really spells it out, right? But it's giving you a clue saying, these are the ones we use. Pick one of these. So as you're typing slow, you're going to get those options. Only take the ones in the drop down. Don't finish typing it out, because even if you spell it the same, you might not be in that market value filter. So it starts with industry, location, and both industry and location have changed multiple times over the last couple of years, where 30-40% of the old database no longer works. So if you did this a few years ago, or even, let's say, 9 months ago, you might be in an industry or a location that no longer exists in the database, so you've made yourself invisible, right? So go back and select it. Then you go into, as you get down a little lower, you start looking at things like titles, companies, right? So if you're typing in a title and no drop-down box comes in, that means LinkedIn doesn't understand what it is. You don't fit into a category. Find the one that's close. If it's really difficult, then you can describe it in the definition of the position internally known as, right? And that's going to solve your problem of honestly saying what you do. But definitely take it from the drop-down. The same thing with a company. As you're typing in a company, if one shows up with a little building block, right? And then another one shows up, same or similar spelling, and it's got a company logo, the one with the logo is the right market value filter. That's going to attach you to a company. So when you think about it, all these things lead to better data. So when LinkedIn knows they're better data, they feel more comfortable presenting you because we are LinkedIn's product, right? That's how they make money, is selling members to other members. And, that's the business. So if we can make them feel comfortable with our data is good, then we get promoted. And so that's part of finding these market value filters. It goes all the way down into type of work, right? Remote, hybrid, on-site, right into, full-time to seasonal. Whenever a drop-down box appears, the one at the top is their highest ranked market value filter. The one at the bottom is always going to be their lowest ranked market value filter. Makes sense. If you open that, type of work, you've got full-time to seasonal. Well, seasonal employee is not the same as a full-time employee. Doesn't have the same value to the company or the business or even the individual, right? Because you're not going to be making much money being seasonal. Right. So they're giving us some clues. We want to get those clues. And it goes all the way down to, I think, the number one mistake I find and I've done over 5,000 profiles, helped individuals with them. The number one thing I find in these market value filters that have gone really wrong is education and certifications. People don't use that drop-down box. They kind of make it up, right? And they make up their abbreviations, or they even accepted one from 5 years ago that at the time it was right, but it isn't right anymore. And what that ends up doing is when somebody is searching for you and it says you must have a master's or a bachelor's, or you need to be certified in program management, if you didn't use that drop-down filter, that market value filter, if you didn't use it, you didn't come up in the search because you are then gray data, and nobody knows what to do with gray data. You can't sort it. You can't really figure it out. It just gets left behind. So market value filters, number one issue. And now we know how to solve it. So go in, do an audit on your profile, hit everything that has a little box that you start typing and you get a drop down. You now know you're in the market value filters. So
I love it.
For number one.
Okay. Number two, timed value. So what do you mean by this?
Well, if you think about it, if you went to the grocery store, right, and you're picking out maybe it's an apricot or it's a steak or whatever it is, and one of them was put out 3 months ago, and one was put out today, same price, which one are you going to choose?
The freshest.
Exactly. Time value. LinkedIn looks at all our data and says the same thing. If it's more timely, then it's got to be more correct, which makes sense, right? So everything, if you look at our top card, we have the ability to check components of a profile, right? When you hit that info area, it'll tell you, when did you last change your profile photo? If I click on it and it says 12 years ago, I'm probably not going to recognize you at the mall, right? And LinkedIn goes, well, if it was 12 years ago, I'm going to push that profile down a little bit. If it was the same photo, I hate to say it, you take the same photo and you just upload it again, now you're fresh. You're still 12 years younger than you should be. But the data says that's got a good time value, right? Same thing when you look at if you get verified, right? There's a time value to that. There is a time value to when you joined, obviously, but that's kind of the opposite end of it. But as you get into your profile, LinkedIn is looking for those timed values as well. When was the last time you updated your profile? When was the last time you worked in the, kind of making your message fit throughout your whole profile? Because we want to do that. So they look at those kind of things and say, what is that? Now that's in the profile itself. And then you got all these little pieces that are attached to the profile, like messaging. If you've got a box of messaging that is full, unanswered, unresponded to, right? It is late in its processing. That has a timed value. And LinkedIn says, you know what? If our business is selling members to other members, I only want to sell the members who are responsive. So if you never answer your messages and you got them all piled up over here, the time value is bad. And so I'm, as a platform, not going to promote you. We want to always kind of keep that in mind, in that sense. That to me is, I think, one of those things that if you don't think about LinkedIn as a database, you kind of go right past it.
Right.
So That's why I wanted to bring that up. So stay active, stay current. The same thing with posting and engaging and all that stuff. LinkedIn is looking at that. They figure the more involved you are on the platform, the more accurate your profile must be. And
I
it makes
love
a
that.
lot of sense, right? I wouldn't be real active on LinkedIn if my profile was 5 years old,
Right.
if the data wasn't good, right? So
Right.
that's a big piece of it. And they are measuring that to then decide how well we are ranked. Now, some people are going, I don't care how I'm ranked. Everybody should, because that's how people find you when they're looking for you, whether they know you or they want to know you. If you don't have a good ranking, you're not going to come up in those search results and they're not going to find you.
I love that. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. Okay. Tip number 3, audience focus. Now that's a huge one that everybody joins this platform. They just upload that resume or CV. So
Well, exactly. And you know, a resume or a CV has a purpose, right? And its audience is people hiring for what you do. Now, let's say you're in sales and you had the most profitable territory, would you put that in your resume? Absolutely. If you put that in your profile, those same words, right? And then you try to sell something, the first thing the other person's going to say is, wait a minute, you got a reputation as the most profitable person. I want your better price. Now that one's not good enough. Give me another one. Give me another one. They're going to start working you because you didn't think about who is the audience for what I'm trying to get accomplished on LinkedIn. So you always want to go through that. And if what you want to get accomplished is hired, then that's fine to leave in there. If you're working for a company, you really want to look at that and say, is this speaking to my daily job, to the things I have to accomplish? And think of it as internal and external audiences, right? So that you can kind of move things forward. But you always want to go back and look at that and say, does it speak to that audience? Because if it doesn't, then we lose all opportunity.
I get, yeah. And that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. So before we go on to 4, should we just check in with the comments for just a second? And I will make sure that I come back and start. Remind me, we're starting at number 4, so I don't mess it up. So we have Jeff here today, ready for more of 2024 with 2 of my faves, Jillian and Kevin. Yay, Jeff! Thank you for being here today. We have Mary Wu. We all got the music, so everybody's got the music in them today. Starting off,
excellent,
because I couldn't play the music. I don't know. I didn't hear it, but I'm hearing other tunes as well. So that's good. So she says, I'm curious to see if your 5 mistakes are the same as mine. And I bet you they're not, because like we said, we're coming at this at a different approach, and I like that. And so I hope everybody will get some value as we are talking today. So hopefully, Mary, we can trade notes later. John Asperian's here. I see you both live. Entered to see whether the skip and speed controls appear on the replay. So this is something that went away, that's come back. So, maybe it's one of our first new features.
Is John trying to tell me I talk too slow? Is it the Texan thing? I mean, I can talk faster if I need to.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I know that that's something that people were frustrated with before, when all of a sudden they couldn't go back if they wanted to. So hopefully now they can. And thanks, John, for tuning in. We appreciate that. Absolutely. And Jeff says we need to use those LinkedIn market value filters to increase our market value. So that just really about sums it up. That sums it up very well. And Lois says, Happy New Year, Jillian. What a great start to a new year you've created here. So thank you so much, Lois. Okay, so let's go back, and we did audience focus. Now, number 4 is social proof. Social proof.
Absolutely. And often people get a little shy when they get on LinkedIn, right? And they're like, I don't want to promote myself. I don't want to do things like that. I want to keep these things a little bit quiet. And they have a tendency to pull all kind of proof away. And to me, what it ends up with is a presentation that's really dry, right? We want to know achievers. We want to hire achievers. We want to be surrounded by people who do more than their job. So if your profile is focused in a list of responsibilities, right, you've lost it. You've got to bring in that social proof. And that is in the sense of the context, you want to bring in your numbers, right?
Mm.
If you created a system that, saved 100 people hours, that's great. That's a good start. But then start extrapolating that. If it was 100 people or 100 people hours that you saved, how much would you pay them per hour to do that job? Times it by 12, right? Now you've got an annual estimated savings of. So bring those numbers forward and put them in the sunlight, because what people see when you leave it on LinkedIn, instead of saying, I created a system that saved a lot of money, it means nothing, right? Now you've said, I created a system that saved these hours and had this annual savings, and you gave it a number. Now it means something. Now it's got some heavy proof, and it's out there in the social market. So it has value. People believe it, right? Because it's in the sunlight. So don't hide it, bring it forward. And when you start to think about these things too, you want to bring this into other areas, written recommendations, skills, endorsements are part of social proof as well. So bring it in there, help people with writing recommendations with you when you ask for them, or if you don't, let them know what you want to bring forward. You can even give them some examples. You can even give them some of those numbers just in case they didn't have them, right? And then they can help you write into your brand a little better social proof. So I think that's really important to do is take control of that. And I don't think a lot of people do, right? In that sense. Now, another component of that social proof is build it into your graphics. If you do presentations, right, in public, and you're in front of thousands of people, what a better background photo to have than you presenting. Says it right there. That's social proof. It's you in action. It might have even been staged and created and Canva and whatever else, but it's social proof. If you're a team leader and you take your people out and you do rope courses, right, to build team, show some pictures of that. Because you can say I'm a team leader all you want. You can say it 100 times in your profile, but one picture is going to sell anybody coming in and looking at that profile. Before team leader 100 times will do it, right? That visual. So, get that social proof into your visuals. Then you can add those to, your about section, your featured section. You can bring them into that background photo. You can bring them into each of your experience sections, right? All the way down into creating projects. So bring that social proof in visually, because it helps. Now, the other component of that is, as you're bringing those visuals in, you want to write the context. Just one more place you could put team leader or whatever it is, right? So it does help you in that kind of keyword area as well. But it's that visual social proof, I think, that helps people understand. And if you're like me, if you're visually wired, and I think you are, Jillian, I think you are visually wired, you get it when you get a picture, right? You can read a lot more into it. And so I think people forget that kind of social proof component. Bring it in. One of the things I enjoyed, I had an individual who actually had a picture of them every time they received an award.
Oh, wow.
Over their career. And we added that to each one of their profile things. Instead of that, bit at the bottom where it says you got X amount of awards that nobody ever gets down to, he had a picture of each one of the awards that he received. And it had much more impact. So it was really, I think just a great way to bring it forward.
I love it. So it's almost like, think like Amazon. When we go to Amazon, we're looking at the book, the movie, whatever, but we also want to see what are other people saying about it. So
Absolutely.
it's like be Amazonable.
I like that. I like that.
Okay. And then the last one is CTA, call to action, safe connectivity. So hopefully I said that right. So what do you mean by that?
You want to give them reason to call you, right? Whatever that is, whatever you do that you bring to the table, you want them to be able to understand that and give them a reason for them to contact you, but you want to keep it safe.
Okay.
One of the things about the internet is it's scraped constantly. LinkedIn, full of data, right? I always say LinkedIn is the gold mine. right? Our data is the gold, and there are people stealing it. And so you want to have that great call to action, and you want to get your connection on there so that they can actually follow through on it, right? They can call you, or they can email you, or connect with you on LinkedIn, but you want to bring it in there, and you want to do it in a way that's safe. Now, a couple things that you can do. If you want to put your email address in there or your phone number, you can put it in a graphic, right? That nice little background photo, some people call background banner. That component, that's a great place to place it, right? It's right at the top. You could have your name next to it. You could have even what your deliverables are in that graphic, and boom, there it is. That can't be scraped because it's a graphic. Now, could somebody write it down? Absolutely. But we're not really worried about the people who write things down and contact us later. That keeps you safe in that sense. And you can bring graphics like that into other areas within LinkedIn, just like the social proof photos that we were talking about, and videos and things like that. So you can bring it in other areas. The other piece of that connectivity, if you want to bring it into the content, the best way is to present it in a way that a human eye could see it and think, aha, I get that that is an email address, right? So I can send an email, or that's a phone number. One of the clever ways on an email is the name before the connection and, right? You put a space in there. You put a space after the and. You put whatever the domain is, right? The email address, put a space, and then you put .com, whatever. A person will see that and say, aha, that's Jillian's address. All I have to do is copy it, pull it over, right? Put it in my email, take the spaces out, and I can send Jillian an email. Same thing with phone numbers. If you take what is the standard phone number format and use that, they can scrape it because they can find it. But if you do something like +1, my number is 214.724.9111, technically is not a phone number format. +1, international for America. So people on the international side get that, but that's not set the right way. So somebody who is out scanning millions of profiles for contact would see that as junk data, would go right past it because they don't want a database full of stuff they have to fix. So it allows you to communicate directly to individuals, but at the same time, say very safe. And so
that makes sense.
Yeah, if you're there to be connected with, it's a great way to do it. And I've done this almost 15 years, haven't had any issues. So I know it works. And, being, I think, clever like that on LinkedIn takes you a long way.
Do you also believe in using like a virtual phone number or even a special email address?
Well, absolutely. And you can go out there. There are services, right? Gmail's got it. You can get a Gmail really fast. You can get a Gmail phone number. So if you don't want to put your cell number out there, right, you can get that Gmail phone number. They'll call that number. It will forward to you, or it will take a message, however you want to set it up. If it forwards you to you, it'll tell you who's calling, that kind of information. It's just a much safer way. You don't have to have that number exposed. If something happens and it gets on a spam list by chance, then you just get a new one, right? Because it always ends up at the right place. And so those are really smart things to do. And I would highly recommend doing that. So you're not exposing your own, but you're going to get it to the right place.
I agree. Awesome. Okay. So I know we have a bonus. If we have time for it, we'll come back. And I just want to check in with our peeps today. So we have Jack, great stuff as always. Kevin, so that's great. Roy says staying active and fresh is great, Kevin. It really is. It's like I love that analogy you talked about. Like if you go to the grocery store, which meat are you going to buy? Which steak?
And Roy is the kumquat I would choose.
I love
He's
that.
very fresh.
I love that. So Linda says the timed value of profile information as well as post comments and message responses is important. And the tip to check the LinkedIn market value drop down terms at least once a year is great advice. I will be doing that later this afternoon. Cool. So that's awesome, Linda. So she's taking action immediately. And that's probably the biggest thing is like What do you recommend, Kevin? Should you be kind of looking at this once a quarter, once a month, once a year? What would you suggest?
I think it depends on how dynamic your market is, right? If you're in cybersecurity, you should be looking at this stuff constantly. If
Mm,
you're in, an area that doesn't evolve very much, right? It's more static, maybe it's once a year. Personally, I look at my stuff quarterly. I do my own
okay,
audit quarterly. I go through and say, does it tell the right story? Is it moving in the right direction? Is there anything I can get rid of that no longer belongs there, right? And so I do it.
right.
I do it quarterly. It all depends on how things evolve for you. And then if you decide to change and take a pivot, then it's right then and there, right? You got to do it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it does seem that like people are constantly pivoting if they're job searching or they're starting a new business and now they're going off in a different direction. You don't want to have all that information be wrong. So
Yeah.
that's important. So
And we
Julie
we have a
says,
tendency to do, oh, I'm
mhm,
sorry, we have a tendency to do what we call chronological dump, right? You throw it in there and then you just add the new piece on top, and people never go back and look. And you could be telling 10 different stories that if somebody actually spends time on the profile, they're going, I'm confused,
I don't
as
even know what
opposed
they're
to,
doing.
I know exactly why Jillian is here.
Yep.
Shape
Yep.
the past history as well to support your future.
I like that. I like that. So Julie says, what if you have your own company and there is no company profile set up? Should there be a company page so that there is a logo and not the anonymous logo? That's an excellent question.
Absolutely.
That's an
Absolutely.
excellent question.
Always set up that company page. If you are your own company, you should have one, right? Because again, LinkedIn looks at that when they see a company page and there's a logo in there, they say, okay, you are employed. Even if you're self-employed, you're employed, your data has more value for me to sell, right? Goes all the way back to follow the money. Putting that company page together does make a difference. Plus, it makes a difference to the visitor of the profile. If you have that little
Mhm,
building block, which means I missed out, I didn't connect to something, right? It really isn't a good brand presentation.
mm-mm,
You should
mm-mm.
have that backup company page to really help you sell what you're selling.
And would you recommend that for just your current position, or would you go back and like, okay, 5 years ago, you maybe you were a freelance photographer or something like that. Should you go back and make a company page to
Absolutely.
go
Go
with
back,
that?
fill the
Okay.
space in. You can even put on that page no longer active in this zone or whatever it is, close that company and this time of year, but definitely do it so it closes the data. It takes it away from being gray data into solid data, definitely employed at the time. And it's really, really good too for people who are like in the tech industry, because they
Mhm.
seem to go through jobs anywhere from, 2 years to 9 months and then, 6 months in between. And they're doing a lot of gig stuff. You
Right,
can
right.
unite all that gig stuff under your own kind of banner, shall we say, your own company page. And another component of that is if you're ever in that position where you're not employed, right?
Mm,
And you're seeking employment, LinkedIn as a database pushes down unemployed
mm,
because their main customer on LinkedIn, there's two main customers. There's recruiters and then there's sales navigators, right? Companies who want to sell to other people. If you're unemployed, they're probably not going to sell to you, right?
right.
The recruiter wants to actually steal you away from the competition. So if you're unemployed, you're not their top customer. LinkedIn knows this. LinkedIn knows that 65% of their $17 billion annual revenue, 11, somewhere around 11 billion, they know that. They're always going to put that search result to best suit their customer needs.
Mm,
And so if you don't have a current employment on both those, you're going to be pushed to the bottom.
mm.
So bring it in. And that employment could be anywhere from, I'm writing a book right now. I'm taking care of family, but don't use I can't even think of the word. I hate it so much.
It's
The
like a
the
sabbatical,
career
taking
break.
a
Yeah, don't
break,
take the
career
career
break.
break, the official one, because that's just identifying it as gray data right out the chute. Create
Mm,
something, put your own company together, hang your own shingle out, join a temporary group, right, that sends you out on jobs. Maybe they never use you, but you're attached to a current business. Always have something current in your profile, because otherwise your data is pushed all the way down.
Great tip. That's a great tip. Okay, Seb. Oh, Seb, I
Hey,
cannot write down all the great tips fast enough. Keep it going. Keep it going. That's
there's
awesome.
always
That's awesome.
replay, Seb.
Yes, there's always, always. And Susan says, excited for this great advice. Yay, yay.
Let's
So,
go.
so we do have time to sneak in your last bonus tip. So you talked about incorporating the corporate. What does that mean?
Absolutely. And that really goes back to whether it's your own company, like you and I, right? Or whether it's a company you work for. And I'm going to start with the company you work for, right? You're an
Okay.
employee of a company. When you're in social media, companies are always worried. You're going to, get out there, you're going to mess up, you're going to make us look bad, you're going to do this, you're going to be looking for a job while working for us, right? If you use the company as part of the brand, you bring it in as part of your brand. Maybe you put the background photo, you put that as a company background photo. You take it from the company page, you add some information in there, maybe your name, and you brand yourself with it. It does a couple of things. At work, the red flags go down. Like, hey, Jillian's not running away. She's company loyal. Different feel altogether, right? If you're selling for a company or servicing for a company, if you look like you don't support your own company, and I'm visiting your profile to find out about you, how much am I going to believe you think what you have is the right solution for me? Because you won't even bring it in. When you, again, incorporate the corporate into your brand, you're telling me this is as good as I am. You should buy into this because I buy into it. And so it has real value there as well. Now, here's the best part of this. There is kind of a double-edged sword to all this in the sense that it cuts for you both ways. And that is recruiters who are looking for people to bring into this next opportunity. The number one thing they're looking for is loyal employees. Doesn't everybody want that? So if you've incorporated the corporation brand into your own, you are now branded as a loyal employee. That's what recruiters want. That's who they're hot after. And they actually use it. They'll talk to you for 5 minutes on the phone. First time you've ever heard of them, right? Well, Jillian, la, 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 and they talk to you and they're like, do you mind if I introduce you to the company? Yeah, go ahead. They'll call that company and they'll say, because we have such an incredible relationship with Jillian, like it's been 20 years, right? But it was 20 seconds. We're going to get her to come out and see you. But you're going to have to take care of her because look at her profile. She is company loyal, but we're going to be, because of our relationship, we're going to get her over here, but you better take care of her. What they're really trying to do is get you more pay so they get a bigger bonus. It all kind of pulls around, but it all goes back to that fact that you have created this brand of being loyal to your company or your own brand. And that's what sells people, right? So that's the bonus.
I love that.
It's easy to do and it does work.
Yep. That's great. That's great. Well, this has been an amazing jumpstart to 2024, Kevin. And we are at our 30. Well, we're past our 30-minute mark. But anyways, is there any kind of one? It's okay. It's okay. Everybody will forgive us because this is good stuff here. So is there any sort of like final words of wisdom that you'd want to leave with us today?
I think engage and help others, because more comes from giving than taking. So there's always a giver's gain. Get out there, help people, provide information, help them on their way, check in on them, because it always delivers tenfold back to you. And I think that's important to know on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a community you can build, but it's built on giving each other things, right? Not taking. Nobody wants you in a community if all you do is take. So, get after that component and things will come to you.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Kevin. This was great. I really hope everybody will just go back, watch this again, take notes, go through all this, because you shared some really good stuff so that we can be fresh. Let's be those kumquats in the supermarket that everybody is going to be fighting over, so that we will all have a wonderful 2024. So thanks for being here today, Kevin, and we'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.